Hi, and welcome to another installment of I Made Your Comments a Reality. Today's music idea came from Michael Levi following the techno track.
I'm addicted to you, so stay close.
He said, "Nicely done, dude. That disco flavor makes the whole thing so swanky. Now do a gritty industrial version." Let me break down the production for you, and in the end I'll play you the entire song. Thank you for participating, Michael, and if you at home have a music idea for me, then don't hesitate to write it in the comments below. It definitely doesn't have to be techno. It could be anything. I'd like to start off with a disclaimer. This track didn't end up as gritty nor as industrial as I was hoping for. I made the mistake of starting out at 128 BPM, and had I tried making gritty industrial techno just once before, I would have known that 128 BPM is way too slow. Also, I made the typical mistake of creating the verses in the style of bossa nova. Classic mistake. But to really understand why this works, I have to explain what the song is about. It's actually a breakup song from the perspective of a guy who feels suppressed by his girlfriend. The bossa nova represents the daily life, a continuous groove, a status quo. But as he realizes his own potential, his emotions explode, represented by the techno. It's a clear juxtaposition, and it's an extreme one, because that's how a breakup feels. Now let's move on to the production, one track at a time. The song begins with this bossa groove. And then the first verse kicks in with some vocals, and the vocals are really simple, really.
Honestly, it's like an open door shuts quietly, and
it's just serial compression, a de-esser, EQ, reverb and delay. And we've got two layers, one main layer.
Honestly, it's like an open door.
And another vocal take, singing the exact same thing.
Honestly, it's like an open door shuts quietly.
And that sits comfortably below it. Then we've got some drums. These are just Ableton stock sounds, nothing special here. Then we've got a bossa guitar. Which I'm hoping to eventually re-record once I get my hands on a nylon string guitar. A bossa bass. And the only thing interesting about the bass is this frequency shifter, which makes this wobbly wavetable. So without it, the bass would sound like this. And then the frequency shifter adds a bit of texture to that. Moving on, we've got the piano. Nothing special here. We've got a piano pedal right here. Not sure why I did that, you can barely hear it. Then some percussion. These are two different patterns of congas, one for the bossa nova and one for the techno. Then we've got claves and a cowbell. That's it. In the second verse, we do have a saxophone. This is just transitioning into the second verse, and then after the second verse, we enter a sax solo. Again, nothing special, just serial compression, EQ, reverb, delay. Now in between these two verses, we do have the techno part. And that has its own drum kit. The kick sounds like this. And it's made up of quite the amount of layers. Alright, so that's the kick. Then we do have the hi-hat. The hi-hat is 3 layers, one open, 2 closed. Sounds like this. Open hi-hat. There's a snare here. 3 layers again. The cool thing is, if I solo these 3 drum elements and then I bump up the tempo, I feel like we're actually getting quite close to a gritty industrial techno feel. Listen to this. That sounds promising, doesn't it? Well, I didn't do that. Alright, moving on. We've got a drum fill. And this is again 1 layer to provide the body of the sound. And then 1 layer to add some texture to and some character to the mids and the highs. Also, during the techno we've got a bass station riff going. It's the same thing. We've got 1 layer to provide the body of the sound. And 1 layer to give it some character to the high end, right? And this layer is just, it's a textural thing. It really is just kind of a droplet sound I happened to make and kept. Now this little grouping over here is also the Novation Bass Station plugin. But it comes on a bit later on in the track and it sounds like this. Right, so it's just playing triplets until we get halfway through and then I'm adding in more variations of tuplets. We've got 3 layers here. And the last 2 tracks are just kind of rises. That's it. Moving on, the star of the show, the microwave. 2 layers again, 1 to provide the body of the sound. And 1 to add some texture to the high end. Then there's an entire effects section. It's just impacts and rises. And these are all processed sounds from my Yamaha DT Express 4 drum sound module. So that's just adds some texture to the background. There's even a bit more texture here, which is actually, it's the microwave again. It sounds like it's doing a bit of scratching. If I remove all of the effects, it sounds like this. I think you might recognize that as a microwave, but with some EQ, some overdrive, a lot of other effects, especially the auto filter, the auto panning and the gates to only allow the transients to come through, we get this, this scratching microwave. I even tried adding a water boiler because it's an industrial track, right? But it just muddied up the mix, so I left that out. Then as we get to the breakdown, this filthy synth bass joins in. Nice. Then we've got a lead synth on top of that. Ton of reverb on this one. There's a chord stack. It's the same lead, but we stack a chord towards the end. There's an arpeggiator in the background. And this arpeggiator keeps the high end interesting during this techno grande finale. Now we've reached the final track. This one is called the announcer. It's just a voice that happens in between the breakdown and the triplets, hard style kind of feel.
You're in the past, I'm in the future.
Trying to make that sound really hellish. 3 layers.
You're in the past, I'm in the future.
The meat and potatoes of this layer is the distortion as well as the auto filter, which also provides the panning effect. The second layer sounds like this.
You're in the past, I'm in the future.
And the only interesting thing about this is saturation as well as this auto pitch free plugin doing some formant shifting on my voice. The third layer is actually the exact same thing as the previous layer, but I smacked on a grain delay and moved the pitch around, and then I exchanged the reverb for a very cave-like reverb to get this really demonic sound, and it sounds like this.
You're in the past, I'm in the future.
And that covers every single track within this project. Now, let's listen to the entire song, shall we? Hit it.
One and two and 1, 2, 3, 4. Honestly, it's like an open door shuts quietly, and as if all air is leaving me. When you burst out, frequently you overuse your power over me. That's where you keep me shut entirely. But tonight I won't cave in. My only hope has been for you to find a new joy. I'm tired of the way you interrupt my vibes, and all the negativity is eating me up inside. I wanna feel truly alive. Suddenly the world has opened doors and plenty air, and if you texted me now I wouldn't care. You're in the past, I'm in the future. So tired of the way you'd interrupt my vibes, and all the negativity was eating me up inside. But now I feel truly alive.